One of my earliest childhood memories is when I was 9 years of age and the Irish police systematically searched every house, including attics, in the housing estate in Limerick City where I grew up. They were searching for the Dutch businessman Tide Herema, who some days earlier had been kidnapped by the ILO while on his way to the Frinka factory, then the biggest employer in Limerick. 36 days later, Herema was freed after a siege at a house in Monasterevin, County Kildare, where he was held captive by Eddie Gallagher and Marion Coyle. As a 9-year-old watching the drama unfold, I became intrigued as to what Herema, Gallagher and Coyle spoke about, often thinking that Herema must hate those who abducted him, holding him blindfolded and forcing him some nights to sleep in haylofts. This weekend's gospel from Luke perplexes many. Jesus expects someone like Dr. Herema to love his enemies. Interestingly, newly elected Vice President of the USA, J.D. Vance recently sparked controversy by quoting the famous theologian Thomas Aquinas. In an interview on Fox News, he accused the political left of improperly caring about migrants at the expense of US citizens. In a follow-up on X, he suggested Googling the term Ordo Amoris, which means the order of love. This expression, Ordo Amoris, was made famous by Thomas Aquinas. Mr. Vance explained why he thought it was improper to focus on the plight of migrants when US citizens are suffering. This is what J.D. Vance argued. There's this old school, and I think it's a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens and your own country. And then after that, you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world. Aquinas' understanding of the order of love describes how we show love to people in the way appropriate to that person's relationship to us, and how we love those closest to us more because we have more ways and opportunities to love them. For example, we care for our children not simply by supporting them financially or granting them a home, but also by changing nappies, reading and cooking with and for them, attending their sporting events, cuddling with them. Often, the only way we can help a person in need is to make a kind donation. Their relative distance often makes this form of beneficence the only fitting way to show our love. Distance does not remove the obligation to help, though it might modify the nature and the extent of the help that might be rendered. Put simply, love of neighbor, as contemplated in the Ordo Amoris, does not require us to treat everyone the way we treat our own children, but it does require us to respond to cases of manifest need. The overall impetus of Christian love, as understood by Aquinas, ought to widen the scope of our concern, to encompass even those who might seem distant or unlovable. Indeed, Aquinas says that love requires us to be prepared to help even our enemies in cases of urgent need. The order of love is about how wisely to extend love and not how to withhold it. Aquinas argues that it is impossible to believe, hope, or love too much. Aquinas describes how love can grow in us over time. By one act of charity, a person is made more ready to act again according to charity. And growing in ability, that person breaks out into a more fervent act of love. Love can be increased infinitely because it dilates the heart. The first reading from the book of Samuel delivers David's enemy into his grasp. David hesitates to attack, accepting that even our enemies are interwoven with God's eternal care. St. Paul, in the second reading, understands what it is to be human, recognizing that just like Abishai in the first reading, that our instincts are so often to want to nail our enemy to the ground. Helpfully, I recently heard a therapist say that at some point in therapy, it becomes clear that no further progress can be made until there is some letting go of past hurts. This therapist was criticized for her reflection, but a feminine voice emerged in the debate to say she is not telling us to forgive. She is only saying that if we do not, our hearts will never open. There is an old saying that states that resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other guy to die. Perhaps this is why Jesus emphasizes the importance of forgiving. In Dr. Herema's storytelling, he speaks of the Gardaí sending in food to the under siege house, and he shares, I must say, they, Gallagher and Coyle, were reasonable in dividing it, and each of us had the same. There is something in this image that helps me to be open to the possibility of loving enemies. Amen.